MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com, RockAuto.com, State Farm, and WeatherTech.
Hello and welcome again to MotorWeek 88. We're glad to have you with us. 1988 marks the 25th anniversary of the Porsche 911. It was introduced at the 1963 International Automobile Show in Frankfurt. Well, since then, it's been stretched, flared, injected, galvanized, and anodized, but it's never really been redesigned. It looks about the same as it always has. The thing that's changed most drastically is the 911's price. In 1965, the car would cost you a little over $5,000. Today, the average 911 goes out the door for just under $50,000. Even figuring for inflation and exchange rates, that's quite a healthy increase. Well, this raises two questions we just can't resist. Why are people willing to pay so dearly for a design that's 25 years old? And what is it about the 911 that's kept it around so long? To find out, we took an example of Porsche's latest 911 Carrera to Savannah, Georgia's Roebling Road Raceway. We also added some 3,000 road miles to this Porsche's odometer, so we've come to know the model well. The first thing you notice about the 911 is that it's really pretty small. It's classified as a mini compact and has a wheelbase that's shorter than a Subaru Justice. The 911's nose dips low, as in other rear or mid-engine cars, but the fenders tower high above to form a channel of the front end. So the view from the cockpit is a little like that of an Austin Healey Sprite or MG Midget, and comparisons to long-dead British roadsters don't end here. Vintage is the kindest description for the 911 dash. Controls are placed where there is room for them, not where logic might dictate. The ignition lock is to the left of the steering column, which, by the way, doesn't adjust. The gauges are complete, but they're spread out horizontally and partially blocked by the steering wheel. They fight for space with everything else. The dash may be a leftover, but the seats aren't. They strike a good compromise between comfort and hold you in the corner's support. These seats with full power control are optional. The standard 911 seats have a mix of power and manual controls. The 911 has a unique system for ventilation, heating, and air conditioning. But see if it reminds you of a system in another vintage model. These dash controls operate a fan and direct the flow of air and heat to the windshield and footwells. This separate set of controls operates the air conditioning and fan. And this is the so-called automatic heating control. It's an option and replaces the two hand levers that would be here in lesser 911s. Unlike the heating and air conditioning, the standard Blaupunkt radio won't remind you of anything you've seen in a Volkswagen Beetle. Luggage room, believe it or not, is pretty good for a rear-engine sports car. The rear seats are even tight for small children, but Porsche still provides 3-point rear seat belts. There's additional room up front, but only for a thin suitcase or very flat groceries. The temporary spare tire resides under the cover. But we didn't take this Porsche to a racetrack just so we could show you the interior. The fun part of our story starts with the engine. This 3.2-liter flat six makes 214 horsepower. That's a lot for an engine this size that doesn't have the benefit of a turbo. While rear engines have fallen out of favor, it's easy to see their advantages. The engine's weight sits just where it's needed and ensures that power gets put to the ground. After initial wheel spin, you really feel the back end bite. Time to the quarter mile was 14.6 seconds at 98 miles per hour. 0 to 60 took just 5.7 seconds. We are also impressed with the engine itself. Unlike many high-performance European engines, this one makes plenty of power at low as well as high engine speeds. And oh yes, it sounds terrific all the while. As for the shifter, throws are long and somewhat clunky, and first gear is located very close to reverse. You get used to it. The clutch, on the other hand, is as smooth as any we've tried. To smooth out the bumps, our Carrera had Porsche's optional sport shock absorbers. 16-inch wheels and tires fortified the suspension. The base 911 comes with 15s. And the Porsche's parts are pretty impressive when you get them all working together. Dive into a turn and the 911 steering gives you a positive feeling you won't get in any other car. Newton told us that all moving objects tend to resist a change in direction, but he'd never felt the feedback you get from the front wheels of a 911. In addition, the Porsche has a habit that helps it through the turns. Lift off the gas and the rear wheel will do a bit of steering too. On a racetrack, this is a handy trait for when the turns get tighter as you go through them. But there is a dark side to all of this. Push the 911 too hard and here's what sometimes happens. Kids, don't try this maneuver with Dad's car. At speed, the 911 has a planted secure feel that you might not expect from a car that has less weight on the front than the rear. We were able to reach 135 miles per hour with the 911 before we ran out of straight track. It inspired more confidence than some performance cars do at half the speed. So did its brakes. They're not of the anti-lock variety, but they take punishment very well. We made dozens of stops from more than 100 miles per hour, all without a whimper. The 911 took 109 feet on average to get from 55 to 0, a good figure. But the brakes are at their best only when they're good and hot. We found it difficult to keep the right front wheel from locking if the brakes were cold. It's easy to be enthusiastic about a car when you get to drive it fast, but we were also impressed with the 911 Carrera when we couldn't. It's firm but still comfortable enough to be great for weekend touring. Everything from power windows to air conditioning is standard. And the 911 Carrera is EPA rated at 18 city, 25 highway. We average 21. Base price is $43,585. With options such as leather, a sunroof, special paint, and so on, our car came to $50,865. Expensive, but the 911 Carrera still hit us just right with its acceleration, steering, handling, and with a lot of other small details that just can't be measured or duplicated. The sound of the exhaust, the shape of the body, the way the car goes through a turn. We didn't much care for the dated dash with its badly placed switches and controls. We couldn't warm up to the heating and air conditioning controls that is. We also think anti-lock brakes should be standard on a car in this class. For comparison, the new Lotus Esprit Turbo sells for about $20,000 more. It offers similar acceleration and more distinctive looks, but has less comfort and practicality. Porsche thinks a few people may get excited about the 911's 25th birthday, so they've introduced a limited silver anniversary edition. It's painted appropriately silver. For the record, other Porsche models can also be had with this paint scheme, but we'll stick with the 911, thank you. It's not hard to understand why this car is still around. In raw numbers, some cars are better, but the 911 Carrera offers sensations no other car can or ever will match.